This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and news around the NHL. The Stanley Cup playoffs are still underway right now. We're currently sitting in the conference finals for both the East and the West. Technically not the West anymore because the Colorado Avalanche swept the Edmonton Oilers, and we're going to get into that a little bit later down the show. I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, David Barnhouse and Tim Stompanato. Everybody, welcome to the show. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing tonight?
Feeling great. Got to be in the stadium last night in Rosemont to watch the conference finals between the Chicago Wolves and the Stockton Heat. Got to watch a really well-balanced game. It was tied 2-2, almost the end of the game, 17 seconds left. The Wolves get a breakaway. They score, place erupts, game ends. How do you beat playoff hockey, even at the AHL level? It was phenomenal.
That's awesome. Did they let you perform during intermission, Crosby, Stills, and Nash?
You know, you'd think that. Unfortunately, we didn't have a way to safely get the guitars on the ice. I didn't bring my skates.
Okay. That's what I'm going with. You were the Beatles a couple weeks ago. Now you're going to be Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
It's perfect. It'll be different every week. Stupid.
No. I'm doing great. You know, hockey's been fun to watch. I got some speculations going in my head with things that I'm going to share throughout the show. So it'll be fun.
So like I said at the top of the show, we're Red Wings and a Blackhawks podcast. Really quick, I'm going to walk everybody through our topics that we have to discuss tonight in regards to the Red Wings and the Blackhawks. Then after that, we're going to talk about the playoffs because like I said, we're in the conference finals right now. We're getting really close to the that final matchup, which is usually, you know, it's what everybody tunes into the playoffs to watch, right? You're supposed to be getting the best of the best here. But real quick, on the Red Wings front, Simen Edvinson, the first round draft pick that they had last year, picked 6th overall, wins the Swedish Hockey League's U-20 Player of the Year award. Again, another defenseman coming right back off of the year that Moritz Seider had the year before. So that's great news for the Red Wings rebuild. Sebastian Kosa, that goaltender that they picked in the middle of the first round, I think it was like, what was it, 15th or something like that, David? He's playing 15th. In the WHL Finals right now. And I misread when he got drafted. Apparently he's eligible for Grand Rapids next season. So it looks like if all goes as planned, we're going to see the goalie of the future already playing at the AHL level, literally a year after he gets drafted. That's pretty good.
And he could be between the pipes at LCA sooner than we think too.
He could be. I mean, if he continues to progress like this, I don't think, 3 years down the road, him playing at the NHL is an unrealistic window.
Having him and Ned as a tandem would be ridiculous if they both develop into what we hope they can.
Mm-hmm. 3 years isn't a bad timeline either, because if he is able to play in Grand Rapids in this coming season, maybe you get 2 seasons in Grand Rapids, really get yourself seasoned as a goaltender. Then you're able to come up to that next level, be a backup to a guy like Ned, like you said. That's a very reasonable trajectory for a young goalie to adjust to the different speeds of the league.
And then he'll feel even more protected having Edvinsson and Seider right in front of him.
My God, yeah, seriously, letting him come in while those two are developing and then let them hit their peak, let him get in. That's a really nice setup and a good way to ease him in.
After we talk about Sebastian Kosa in the playoffs, we're going to be also talking about Max Bultman of The Athletic. He basically put out a sort of like an article this week, just talking about some of the moves that were kind of interesting that Steve Yzerman could make during this offseason. The Wings they've been very close to the chest with the moves that they're going to be making this offseason. And Max floated out a couple really interesting ideas. So I want to talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, I shared the article with you guys. So quick read.
And then the final piece of Wings news, Dylan Larkin changed his professional representation to, I believe it was Pat Brinson and CAA. We're going to break down really what this means and what this actually has to do with like his contracts and stuff like that.
There's one more piece about Ken Daniels, Mickey Redmond.
Oh yes, and sorry. Also, fun fact: Mickey Redmond and Ken Daniels are voted the #1 broadcast team in the NHL, which that's kind of a cool thing to see. Like, I love the broadcast for the Wings. On the Blackhawks side of the podcast, we're kind of quiet this week. Obviously, they're still looking for a head coach position. Still quiet on that front. No rumors or anything like that of anything like really substantial coming out. Also, it looks like they're still in the market for a goaltender for next year. Rumors floating around maybe Peter Marazzic from the Toronto Maple Leafs. They agreed to terms with Filip Roos, the defenseman that they drafted, to a 2-year entry-level contract. And I mean, I feel like we've been saying this before, and they've been saying this before as well. They've stated that everybody not on a no movement contract or no movement clause contract is available for trade. Does that mean that they're moving these players? Not always, but it just means if somebody presents an offer, they're willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we're going to move on to the playoffs. I don't want to spoil that yet because I've got mixed emotions about that, but let's just jump right into this, fellas. So
yeah, let's go.
First off, I mean, Simen Edvinson, a player who got drafted at 6th overall last year, a bigger bodied guy, but I think a lot of people were wondering, what's he going to do in this draft plus 1 year? And can we even expect him to be what we've seen out of Moritz Seider? Because, and I think, David, you probably agree with me, it's unfair to place that sort of an expectation on a player like that. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was excited that we've seen 2 defensemen win this award back to back.
It's a good thing to see. Like, people always talk like, oh, you don't care about like rookie awards, young player awards, but these guys were playing as young kids in an adult league, right? And they won these awards. Like, this is exciting. Will he be as good as Seider was his first year in the winged wheel? I don't know. Am I excited to watch him play and cheer him on? Yeah. Do I hope he develops into at least 75% of what we hope he can in his first season? Hell yeah. I think him and Seider are our future 1 and 2. Like, there's no doubt about it. And it's going to be a sight to see when they are on the ice together playing 20 plus minutes a game, just locking that stuff down.
I love seeing the fact that Edvinsson is a left-handed shot and Seider is a right-handed shot. Like, obviously you don't look super hard at that when you're trying to draft a player. You're looking for their overall abilities. Like, the way they shoot is probably the last thing you're looking for. That said, the fact that it lines up that way, that makes them a natural pairing on top of their abilities and skill sets too. No one would have to play the offside. Like, this really is, if it pans out, this is legitimately a top pairing mate. Like, this is fantastic. You don't have to force somebody into an offhand position.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to force somebody to offhand position. You can play them opposite sides, which works. Neither of them are small guys, so you're not worried about it. I'm getting muscled off the puck.
But neither of them slow either. Like, they've got really good skating ability. They're comfortable moving on both sides of the ice. They can get involved offensively, as Seider showed last year a little bit. There's no clear deficiency. Like, not necessarily that they excel in every area, but there's nothing that they're masking for the other. If anything, they can free each other up to lean towards their strengths a little bit.
It seems like we see a pattern in Yzerman's drafting. It's big guys that can move quickly.
I mean, great. And again, if they've got the hands too, it's fantastic. Because I think of like Filip Roos, who I hope that he's able to be paired with somebody next year that has a stronger defensive element, that maybe is a little more of a stay-at-home defenseman that can really mask some of those deficiencies on Hronek's end and allow Hronek to free up and be some of that high freewheeling offensive defenseman. Yeah. They could do some of the more hot and like the 2 extremes on that second pairing if you've got a very stable first pairing.
Mm-hmm. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit in the show when we talk about Max's just unique opportunities for the Wings and free agency. But that is the thing is, I mean, if Hronek can really be attached to somebody who is a stay-at-home defenseman and who can help cover for his defensive lapses, I think realistically where Hronek should be as a middle pair, and if you can get a guy who can actually let him play as a middle pair, you've got a almost finished defensive group, assuming that Edvinsson pans out to what we expect him to be.
Yep.
And it's crazy that the rebuild, in at least in theory, is going to be over within the next 2 or 3 years. And it's going to be over for a long time, just given the fact all of these kids are going to be so young.
Yep. I can't wait.
Of course, it depends on them taking, making contract negotiations work for some of these guys. Like, Raymond's going to have, both Raymond and Sider are going to have hefty contract negotiations coming up. Zadine is a bit of a wild card too.
You also can't forget we have a lot of money.
Where him and his agent think are going to try and negotiate where they're at versus what we've seen and where he fits into the Yzer plan. That's going to be the interesting part.
And it all can come down to trades too, because there's one of the trades that Max Bultman proposes that I actually am interested in that we'll talk about.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
We can keep moving on from Edvinsson. I want to talk about Sebastian Kosa for a second. He's a goaltender who he got picked in the 15th overall
15th,
pick.
we traded up for him.
Yeah, Steve Yzerman traded up to draft this kid. When Steve Yzerman drafted him, a lot of people asked him, what about Jesper Wallstedt? What made you choose Kosa over this kid? And Steve Yzerman, kind of tongue in cheek, just asked him, what other goaltender? I think it's awesome that Steve Yzerman kind of stuck to his guns on this pick, and it looks like it's going to pan out really nice.
I mean, it should be said that the Wild also just signed Wallstedt to a 3-year contract. So it's not like he's a bust by any means, but it is awesome to see Yzerman be like, it wasn't between two goalies. It wasn't whichever one's available. I wanted Kosa.
This is my guy. I'm going to trade up for him.
Yep, exactly. He didn't want to rely on one of them might still be there or anything like that. With the way that the scouting for the Red Wings has been, and with what Yzerman's looking for to round out his team that we're seeing at every position, every level, he's got to see something in Kosa that he didn't see in Wallstedt that said, this is the one I'm going to hang my hat on. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, right now, Kosa's putting up, starter caliber save percentages in the WHL playoffs. So is the WHL the NHL? No, of course not. It's a league for kids who are under 20. But that being said, you've got to assume that if progress is linear, those numbers are going to go up as he changes leagues. And it looks like progress so far is going to stay linear.
And again, you take it with a grain of salt, but it would be more concerning if he wasn't putting up record number, playoff caliber starting goaltender numbers in a league of his peers. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you got to adjust it, take it with a grain of salt. But if he was letting in soft goals, if he was, even average numbers, I mean, that doesn't translate to the league. The way he's playing right now, that's where people say, okay, even when you adjust and convert, he's still doing a really solid job, and it's playoff hockey. Everybody's up to their level at this point.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Good for you guys.
David, you reminded me about it. Mickey Redmond Daniels got named the #1 broadcast team of the NHL. That's kind of a fun, just little tidbit for them.
It is. Unfortunately, Chicago was voted as number 23, so you were not very high.
Now, was this? I didn't read the article.
It was in the Athletic. It was a fan poll in the Athletic.
Was it? Which was it? Broadcast?
Yeah, the broadcast team.
NHL broadcast team.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. It wasn't Eddie O and Pat Foley this year. It was Eddie. It was a rotating door of people.
And that was what they said is why it was 23, and it's going to be hard to follow Pat Foley.
You asked that question last year. I guarantee we're top 5. I really do, because there's nobody quite like Pat Foley.
Wings were number 1.
Yeah, who were the?
Wings were 1. Kraken were 2, tied for 2 with the Canucks.
Okay.
Tied for 4th because there is no 3rd because of it. St.
Sure.
Louis Blues, Florida Panthers, and then yeah. So the Wings were a unanimous number 1.
I'm just glad it's not the Bruins.
Bruins
like even
were Bruins were low. I think they
Yeah,
were
even
like
Bruins
20.
fans don't like their broadcast team.
Bruins.
That's Jack Edwards, right?
I want to say yes.
Idiot.
Oh, Bruins were lower than you guys. Oh boy. Where
And
are they?
we have a rotating door of like 20 people this year. That's
Bruins
rough to be lower than
ranked
us.
in at. You guys keep talking. I'm trying to find them. It's like they're 30th. There they are, 30th.
So literally at the bottom.
32 teams.
Out of 32 teams that were 30th.
Oh, hold on, just who was last? I gotta know.
I want you to guess. Who's a dumpster fire team right now?
Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona.
Well, good. Maybe they'll have college announcers this next year to go with their college rink.
Interns.
Listen, that'd be great. That'd be a great gig for somebody actually going into
God, sports journalist kids.
Yeah.
Like every other game, just cycle in new kids. That's
Why
awesome.
not just do a college intern coach too? They're not going to be good regardless. So
We can move on.
we got to
so
get.
I
We
want.
got
So
our dig.
I brought up. I read it today during lunch. The Max Bultman article because he posted about it on Twitter, and so there was a few trades in it. I'm not gonna go. Is it okay if I take this one, Jordan?
Yeah, it's fine.
So he came up with 5 like interesting things to think about, trades we could do. I don't want to go into like too much detail for all of them, but there's a few that jumped out to me. Making a trade for Pittsburgh's Marcus Peterson.
Yes.
So Peterson wasn't getting a lot of minutes in the regular season. I think they said like 18 minutes a game or less. But postseason, he was racking up like 22, 23 minutes, and his numbers rose the longer he played. Boltman thinks we could possibly get him for our 3rd rounder and maybe our 2nd rounder. I think that would be a fair deal because there's other defensemen that are ahead of him. I think he would be a good middle pair for us. And
the
he's
Nick
still
Leddy
young.
special.
Yeah, he's still young. Didn't care about the Sean Monahan's contract from Calgary trade.
I don't think they do that anyway. I think they'd rather just bury it.
Offer sheets never work, but he said offer sheeting Nicholas Haag from Golden Knights. The only people that make offer sheets work are the Carolina.
That said, Carolina. They've got the space, they've got the picks,
and Golden Knights don't have the money.
Yep, the Golden Knights. If there is any justice in this league, the Golden Knights are going to get offer sheeted left and right for anyone that they've got on an RFA this coming year because they can't defend themselves.
They can't. They have no money and they have a lot of RFAs.
And they've built not great goodwill with the rest of the league.
And if it's between keeping Haag and what's his name, Nicholas Roy, they're going to keep Roy because Roy has the better numbers. The other trade I didn't really care for was trading for Pierre-Luc Dubois from Winnipeg. Nope.
Well, that could be your second line center.
It could be, but then he might decide, I don't want to play.
Depends on, give some credit where it's due. A, depends on what you signed him to. B, if you played under John Tortorella,
no,
I would also burn out. Like he went to Winnipeg and he's been good this year. Like we haven't heard anything that he's a locker room problem, nothing like that. Like, I don't know. Let's not underestimate the Torts effect. He made Patrick Laine a shell of himself.
Yeah. Max speculates maybe our 8th pick and Joe Veleno for him. And I'm just thinking, I don't know. But the idea proposal from Boltman that really jumps out to me is trading up for the number 2. New Jersey has been open considering all their options for the pick. I feel like if we're going to be talking about we're going to talk about in a minute with re-signing Larkin with probably a bigger deal, going to have to re-sign Raymond, going to have to re-sign Sider. I think we package our 8th pick and maybe a 2nd round pick and Bertuzzi.
That's
Oh.
juicy, David. That's
The other-
juicy.
The other option he said in it was packaging it with Kosa. I don't think Eiserman's going to
No.
trade Kosa. That's his guy.
I don't see Koza.
But Bertuzzi, not our guy, not an Eiserman guy. Eiserman likes him, but Bertuzzi has a contract coming up.
What do you think about Zadina?
I think New Jersey would rather have Tuzi than Zadina.
100% agree. I just wonder, God, I hate to always come back to that. Canada's not loosening up with the vaccination status stuff. I think that we all thought that by now they would. New Jersey, I feel like, are they in the same division as you guys?
No.
I feel like they play more Canadian teams in, and I could be completely out, like telling tales out of school here. I don't know. I'd just be worried. Maybe it's just because they're further east, which is a silly idea.
They play none.
Just say because they should be playing the New York teams.
Perfect.
Carolina, Rangers, Pittsburgh, Washington, Islanders, Columbus, New Jersey, and Philadelphia.
Then Bertuzzi's never mind. Forget everything I just said. In fact,
and then we get
that's the
either
best
Wright
reason.
or Cooley. We get Wright or Cooley. And there we go. Our second line.
I would be
centerman.
rooting for that in a heartbeat. That's good television. I love when a high pick gets moved. And that fits what you guys are looking for. I mean, I feel like
they get the 8th pick. They still get a possibly pretty good piece.
oh god, yeah.
They get Bertuzzi, who's Bertuzzi.
Mm-hmm.
That opens up space for us to bring more wingers around. You know, a Soderblom. He's a winger.
Soderblom.
Yep.
Soderblom could show up. Rasmussen
Berggren could show up.
Berggren looked great when I saw him in the AHL game this year.
Rasmussen gets more of a role.
Joe Veleno gets more opportunity potentially.
Verana's there. Like, that is a trade I would make.
And the crazy thing is if you're New Jersey, they had the second overall pick this year. I can't foresee them grabbing another center with that pick. They've already got their number 1 and 2 in theory with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. Like, yeah, I guess you could grab another one, but at that point, you're gonna move one of them.
You have to, yeah. So I think the Wings, if they're serious, if Eiserman's like, we need one of these guys, we need Cooley or we need, right? I think this is the trade we make.
And let's be honest, Bertuzzi's been a trade discussion the last couple years pretty consistently. And he's exactly the type of top 6 presence that New Jersey's been missing. Because you're right, they've got Jack Hughes, they've got Nico Hischier. They don't have a physical presence that can also score.
Yep.
And Bertuzzi is that to a T.
God, if draft night happens and then all of a sudden they go, oh, there's been a trade, I'm like, oh my God, is this happening?
It's the first proposal in a long time where I think it actually makes sense, because I don't think that Wright or Cooley, as good as they are, you're pretty much saying, I'm going to move on from one of Hischier or Hughes, which were, God, first overall picks, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if you're New Jersey, you stop putting stock in first overall picks and you start going for a proven entity.
Man, that,
which is crazy because Cooley on Tankathon is number 3.
Who they put a second?
Juraj Slafkovsky.
Okay.
Is number 2 on Tankathon.
I don't hate that.
but still, either way, like, New Jersey doesn't need to grab another center. And when you're picking that high, that's generally what you grab if it's there.
Worst case scenario, at number 8, Brad Lambert might still actually be on the board the way that they've adjusted the central scouting draft boards, which he could be a center or right wing.
Tankathon has Lambert going 11th, so yeah.
Okay. I'm still high. I'm still higher on him than I think a lot of people are.
They have us taking Jonathan Lekkerimaki at 8.
This is going to be really an interesting draft because, like, these kids are part of that group who got affected by, like, missing a year with COVID.
Yep.
That's where I know a lot of people keep saying this is a low a weak draft class, yada, yada, yada. But like
GMs aren't stupid.
Yeah, no. And also go back to the Nolan Patrick, Nico Hischier year, and they got Makar at 4th.
Mhm.
Like you can any draft is a crapshoot to begin with. This one, realistically, the people at the top are the ones that people have seen a lot of. There's going to be some gems. There's going to be some stolen gems in this draft that nobody was expecting.
Yep.
Because you just didn't know.
Yep.
We can move on to what I think is probably the last piece of Wings news for this week. Dylan Larkin changed his professional representation to Pat Brinson and CAA. So for anybody who's not really familiar with how a lot of the stuff works, these professional athletes have agents. Those agents help negotiate contracts on those players' behalf. And yeah, is there dollars and cents stuff to those contracts? Sure, absolutely. There's dollars and cents stuff. There's a salary cap. It exists. Players get and want to have a guaranteed salary of X dollars. But another thing that factors into this is also there's stuff like sponsorships, endorsements, stuff like that, that also gets factored into professional representation. If you want to see an example of this, go look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and what happens over there, just like their sponsorships with guys like Austin Matthews, for example. There's more to contract negotiations than just dollars and cents on the cap space. That being said, this change, I get it. It kind of looks like one of those things where Dylan Larkin's not going to take a hometown discount on this upcoming contract. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But at the end of the day, I don't think any fans should really blame him for wanting to get market value. He took a discount on his last contract, which was, what was it, a 6-year contract? I can't blame him for wanting to get paid on arguably the biggest contract of his career.
Oh, no, of course not. Like, he's the captain. He's the face of the franchise. Like, when I think Detroit sports, if I was to make Detroit sports like current Mount Rushmore, it would be Cade Cunningham. It would be Dylan Larkin. And I don't know who I'd pick for the other two. Miguel Cabrera, because, Miguel Cabrera's there. Like, Dylan Larkin's the captain. There's nothing to worry about. He's a Red Wing for life. If he leaves the Red Wings, I will, chew my thumb off. The dude is never going to leave this team.
Dylan Larkin leaves when he wants to leave.
Yes. And I think he just wants to be taken care of,
It's so interesting, right? The shifting of representation, gearing up for a negotiation. Like, this is such I don't know, it's strategic. And I'm excited about, it doesn't even necessarily mean like, hey, I'm gearing up. We talked about this a little bit before the show. It doesn't necessarily imply animosity or that it's going to be messy. But it does show clearly, for some reason, one way or the other, he was either not happy or done with his previous representation. And they came out and were like, we're surprised by this, to be entirely honest. It very much feels like he either felt that Brisson could offer not only better representation, but make sure his interests were heard and met. I mean, you're right. So much more goes into just the dollars and cents. Like, this contract negotiation, there's going to be, we see it all the time. There's implications and agreements that come with, if I sign this, I want to be guaranteed X. I want maybe different incentive bonuses. Maybe it's a no movement clause. Maybe it's guarantees about the type of players that you want to bring in and more voice in the management with how things move. It could be anything. And he thinks that this representation, this person will advocate for him in labor relations and negotiation better than their previous representation. That's the stuff I get excited about, reminding myself that each one of these individual players is an entity within the giant NHL Players Association union. Mm-hmm. And so this is a contract negotiation. This is exciting.
Yeah. There's nothing to worry about. Like,
no,
he's staying.
Especially, it sounds like there's been nothing but good back and forth, at least that the public has seen, and this stuff gets leaked if it doesn't. But like, we haven't seen any cause for concern between him and Red Wings management. My guess is that there's just going to be assurances about the trajectory and the length of the rebuild at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it could even be something as simple as like how he like, let's say it was going to be an 8x8 contract either way, right?
Yeah.
Let's say he thinks that, Pat's going to be able to get the contract front loaded and that's how he wants the contract. It could literally be something as simple as that.
Lockout protections.
Yeah, that too. Like,
where it's going to be due up within his next contract range is the potential of another lockout and CBA arrangement. So like, that's something that's going to be on people's minds.
But it just because he changed representation does not mean that it's a negative. It sometimes is.
No.
It's just business.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is.
He might have just not even been, again, not to completely speculate, but he might not have been happy with maybe the representation wasn't engaging. Maybe they wanted to ice out. Maybe they weren't negotiating or representing in the way that the player himself wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
And this could mean more about a rift between them than between Larkin and the Red Wings, you know, certainly.
Yeah, of course.
There's so many different ways to go about this. There's no reason to be spooked yet.
Speaking of speculation, not something we mentioned at the beginning, it's been all quiet on the Yzerman front, all quiet on the coaching front. Bruce Cassidy, Boston Bruins, just got fired. Bruce Cassidy, 4 of the 5 last seasons, over 100 points.
He's also made the playoffs like all 6 of his years with the Bruins, if I'm correct.
In his last 5 seasons, 2020, they lost in the second round. 2019, they lost in the Stanley Cup final. 2021, second round. 2022, first round.
That was a team that missed the playoffs like the year before that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cassidy makes a lot of sense for you guys, honestly.
Someone, I love the quote on Reddit, Bruce Cassidy and the Sunquist good.
The memes write themselves. This is fantastic.
He, out of NHL coaches, he might be at the top of my list if we were to look inside the league.
Well, like the thing is, if you look at his track record with the Bruins, yeah, the regular season stats matter, but when you look at the playoff record, what happened as they started not getting as far in the playoffs? They lost key players,
and they're aging.
Yeah, and they're an aging group.
Like Bergeron, all them, they're oldies now.
They lost Chara a couple years back. Bergeron. They lost Krejci.
Krug's gone.
Krug.
Tuukka Rask.
Yep. Now imagine him without the oldies, but with the young guns of the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, if Yzerman hasn't thought about it and given him a call, or just put some feelers out there, I don't know what's going on.
You have to assume that they're at least doing due diligence, right? Like, even if he wasn't on the list, again, he wasn't on anybody's list until, yesterday.
Or he's just waiting for Tampa to be done. And he's going to say, all right, John, come on.
I still think it's a ridiculous pie in the sky thing, but I think
Cooper wins his 3rd Stanley Cup championship in a row. And he's like, you know what? I've done all I can in Florida. I don't like Florida anymore.
Sometimes you get bored and you want to play on hard mode.
Yeah,
I get it.
But yeah, that's one other thing. I think I wouldn't mind Cassidy if you brought him in. I would not mind it at all.
It's a step in a winning mentality.
We can move over to the Blackhawks side of the podcast if you guys are all right with it. Unfortunately, it's kind of a quiet week for the Blackhawks on this show.
The biggest news, the biggest tangible news for Hawks fans in my mind is the fact that with the Oilers out, the conditional pick that we had in the Keith trade is officially a 3rd round pick. And that means that even though we don't have a 1st round pick, we do have 5 picks in the 2nd and 3rd round with this coming draft, because we've got our own pick at number 38. Number 56, the 2nd round, is from Minnesota in the Fleury trade. And then we've got picks 80 from Las Vegas because of the Matthias Janmark trade, which I had forgotten about. We've got pick 89 from Toronto via Calgary from the Zadorov trade, and pick number 93 from Edmonton with the Duncan Keith trade. So that's kind of a big deal. Like, I'll take it. We don't have a first round pick, but we have seen historically that second and third round picks aren't nothing. And especially the way that Davidson and the new revamped scouting process is going, there's no reason to think that they're not going to be able to try and swing for something there, or even package and move up. Because he said he wants a first round pick. So to go off of something that I know we're going to talk about, is there's players on the menu to potentially be moved. And I think that he's not above packaging some of these picks with a player to get a first round pick.
And I mean, I guess I can kind of tie into like something that we talked about right before the show. The Blackhawks are looking for a goaltender this offseason, and rumors are floating around Peter Marazzic might be one of the names they're looking at. The Toronto Maple Leafs need to clear cap space. Like, they literally have no breathing room. Even after Mark Giordano took a ridiculous discount, like, maybe they take him as a cap dump and they say, we'll give Toronto a second rounder and we'll take Peter Marazzic off their hands and we want their first.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Honestly, I would say either that, which I think is a very fair trade, or Marazzic in a second for like a third or a prospect or something like that. The Marazzic trade makes sense to me. We're not looking to be competitive. We're not, we don't necessarily have any goalies yet. That we've got Drew Comesso, who has looked phenomenal. Great second year at Boston. Has played for Team USA, both in the actual Olympics and then in the World Juniors. So like, he's coming, but he's not here yet. Lankinen, I don't know what to think. I mean, he was injured and then he had COVID. I want to see more of him, but I think he'll be the backup next year with a proven NHL goaltender. And frankly, Marazzic makes a lot of sense. He's not gonna steal us the games that Marc-Andre Fleury or Corey Crawford or Robin Lehner did. But it's not going to be a pathetic experience. It's not going to be bad. And frankly, Toronto needs all the cap space they can. 3.8 mil could be that could be two depth pieces for them, which they desperately need. I think that's worth a first or a second, honestly.
I mean, the thing is, they're still in win now mode, right? So
yeah, they got it. What good? Realistically, if Toronto gets to where they want to go, what good is the 30th, 31st, 32nd overall pick? Because you think you're going to go the whole way. It's of more value to us at this point than them. Certainly, they're not trying to build for the future. They got to go now.
I mean, I think it's an interesting idea for Davidson to explore this idea of he could kind of do what Steve Yzerman did, since the Hawks, in theory, might be able to have a lot of cap space after Jonathan Toews retires, assuming like you guys might be in the same position where you guys can look at teams and say, that guy's way overpaid. We've got cap space. We'll take him off your hand in exchange for picks.
I mean, that's going to be the $1 million question, right? The one problem is we're a rebuilding team, but we're not exactly flush with cap space. I mean, we got to figure out.
But you will be, though.
We will be. It depends on what happens with Strome. It depends what happens with Kane and Toews and DeBrincat, because we're assuming Toews retires, but realistically, we're talking out of our asses. We don't know what's going to happen with Toews.
But he's not ranked for 10.5, though.
No, he's not doing 10.5. Kane isn't going to do 10.5, but it could still be high. DeBrincat might be at 10.5. I mean, he's a 40 goal a year scorer. I'd hope he's around 9, but you don't know. Like, he's proven inconsistent. I do worry about that, but I think for the next 2 years, we should be okay. Because I think we let Kubalik walk. I really do. I don't see us being able to move his rights at the draft. But Strome, I'm still holding out for. So our cap isn't as clear as I'd like it to be, but I still think the Marazzic move makes sense.
I mean,
especially if we can get a first or a second round pick with him.
and the thing is, Marazzic, he's not like a certified NHL starter, but he is a certified NHL caliber goaltender. He's good enough to play in the NHL and not put up an 85 save percentage every single night.
Exactly. Like he's not going to lose you a lot of games. He's just not going to steal them for you. And frankly, that's exactly what we're trying to find right now.
Like we mentioned earlier, the Hawks have been really quiet on the coaching front. No announcements yet of like certified candidates or anything like that they have really talked to. The other piece of news, they agreed to terms with Filip Roos, a defenseman, on a 2-year entry level contract. I'll be honest, I don't really know a ton about him, but it's a contract.
Sounds like a big body, like decent skater. I always love the caveat of like great skater for his size. And I want to be like, what does that mean? Are they actually a good skater, or are they just a big body and you go, they're actually moving pretty decently, good for them. So I am curious to see. I'm whelmed. It's a contract. It's exciting. He did have a good year, honestly. He's going to start in Rockford. I don't think that he's a direct over to the NHL signing like Kubalik or Cahoon or Gustafsson in the past, like some of our other big European signings. Panarin, of course, that doesn't count. But I think he starts in Rockford. To me, that means that they think that 1 or 2 Rockford guys are going to be moving up to justify giving him a space, because that's a guy going back to contract negotiations. Your agent gets, hey, let's have assurances. Like if they're going to come over and be in the AHL, we want them playing top 4 minutes. We want them to have otherwise they could just stay over here and play or go somewhere where there's space. There has to be space for him in Rockford. Who goes up? That means who's leaving. To me, it's just more a sign of we're ready to make some moves with our defense and some of the guys that were in Rockford moving up, which is exciting. And hey, maybe he carries over his success overseas to the AHL and he does earn a spot in the show. That would be great. But I don't know enough yet, just from what I've seen, the little bit of clips and like highlight reel stuff they put together. I'm more excited still about Mitchell and Regula than I am. Even like Isaac Phillips. I don't know. It'll be curious to see him on North American ice.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a difference, right?
It is a pretty big difference.
Especially with defensemen where they realize like, I do not have as much time and space. Like the decision-making, again, that's where a Moritz Seider, his skill sets and abilities translated so well to North American ice and the speed and the pacing of the show. There's a lot of there's a lot of players where it takes a decent bit of time to translate. You've got a lot less time, a lot less space, and it's the decision making that kicks in.
I mean, 2 seconds, as much as that doesn't really seem like a ton of time.
Everything.
It's everything at the professional level. 2 seconds.
You can see it in the playoffs right now, where those 2 seconds, oh my God, that's an eternity for some of these guys when they're making a decision. It's remarkable to watch.
Yeah.
Speaking of the playoffs, let's jump into the playoffs.
I'm ready. Let's talk about this.
So when last we left this show, the first round was all done. The second round had just started. The Battle of Alberta was awesome.
So good.
Ended
that
too
was
soon.
phenomenal.
Ended too
Yeah.
soon.
I wanted that to go to 7 so bad.
But so the Battle of Alberta was awesome.
Yep.
None of us are going to say otherwise. I don't think any of us, or at least I don't think I expected the Rangers to beat the Carolina Hurricanes. I think that kind of came out of nowhere, if I'm being honest.
I think I had them beating the Hurricanes.
You did. The Battle of Florida was not as good as we could have hoped.
The Battle of Florida was a bust.
Florida's offense just crapped the bed.
And Bobrovsky did what he could, but what are you going to do? I mean, Tampa still had points at that point, I think.
Yep.
That I could not believe that Tampa swept the Panthers. Like, not even one game.
Didn't the Panthers win the President's Trophy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about the curse of the President's Trophy.
The curse. Who's the last team to win the cup with the President's Trophy? Was it you guys?
2013. 2013, the Hawks. There might have been another one since that. Might have been Tampa, one of the many years they've won the cup now. But I know for a fact 2013 with us.
Let's see. You keep talking. I'll look.
Yeah, I think most of us had the Panthers being going to the cup final with the Avalanche. I mean, what do you do? They were the smart bet. I still expected Tampa to beat them. Well, no, once I started watching it, I did, but I did not expect them to get swept. That's wretched.
Like, if you look at both of those lineups, that looks like a 6 or 7 game series every day of the week.
Overtimes left and right. You're expecting the best of the best. They just got, I don't know what happened. You know that front office is going to make some panic moves in the offseason.
Absolutely, they will.
And it's probably not the right move. Honestly, like sometimes that happens where a team just doesn't play. Last time that happened to the Hawks, we traded Hjalmarsson and Panarin.
I mean, we've been singing Tampa's praises, but it happened to them 3 years ago with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They got swept.
Mm-hmm. That playoff series had a couple of teams that got swept. The Islanders swept the Capitals, right?
Tampa was the President's Trophy that season, by the way, when they got swept by the Blue Jackets.
I love it.
You guys are the last team to win the President's Trophy and win the Cup in 2013, like you said. Before that, it was the Detroit Red Wings. In 2010, 2011, the Canucks lost in the Stanley Cup final.
You love to see that. Look at us doing all right. There's going to be some panic moves, and it's probably not going to be the right thing. But you're paying a goalie 10.5 a year to be inconsistent.
We're talking about
That's a hard
Smith?
One. What?
Who are we talking about?
Bobrovsky.
Oh,
when he's on, he's phenomenal, and you've got Spencer Knight there to pick up the slack, which is great. But man, 10.5 for a goalie. He truly is a cautionary tale.
Hey, dude got banked though.
Oh yeah. Listen, if I'm Bobrovsky, I sign that every day of the week. Yeah. But unless you're Carey Price that can show up in the playoffs and put a team on your back, 10.5 is rough.
That's hard. If you're commanding 10.5, you've got to be like a true superstar and a superstar who's there every single game, every single night.
Never been proven to be that consistent.
Yep.
Then we get onto the conference finals because this pained me to watch. So anybody who's been watching and talking to me knows that I honestly thought that the Edmonton Oilers were going to the Cup Finals this year.
God bless you.
Like, here's the crazy thing, though. I looked at this series versus Colorado. If you don't count the empty net goals, every game in this series, except for game 2, where they had the meltdown, was a 1-goal game.
Yep.
That's not bad, given the fact that Darnell Nurse was playing with, an injured hip flexor? And Leon Draisaitl was skating on basically one leg.
That ankle thing still scares me. Like, he needs to have surgery immediately. Yep. You could see the pain in his face.
Score update, almost the end of the second period, and Tampa is up 2-0.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
So here we go. We're talking about Colorado now. Colorado's in the Stanley Cup final. Darren Helm going to a Stanley Cup final. Good for him.
Love that.
I'm putting my foil hat on right now, boys. Okay.
Oh, I'm so ready for this.
Here we go. As a Red Wings fan, Jordan, we're getting a E60 documentary, Unrivaled, if you've seen, between the Colorado Red Wings rivalry. I hate the Avalanche, but I want the Avalanche to win the Stanley Cup. Here's the foil. You see the foil? And here's why. Jordan, every time the Avalanche has won the Cup, who wins the Cup the following season?
We do.
Get out of here.
We do.
Get out of here. No.
2023 Stanley Cup champions.
That's so weird. That's a bizarre statistic.
That was the years of our rivalry where we were the 2 best teams in the league.
That's so interesting. I hate it.
You love it. You love it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when Dylan Larkin holds out. Yeah, put that curse on you. How do you like that? Nobody feels good anymore.
I hope your Giardiniera is mild.
You've gone too far, sir. Okay, so yes, the Avalanche swept the Oilers, which I don't think any of us expected. Like, I expected the Avalanche to move
Screw
on.
Vander Kane, though.
Yeah, I really want him to be a redemption story. I just want to see any sort of like moving forward.
With the way his ex-wife was Instagram storying the entire series, I'm fine with it.
It's a messy situation. I don't. And if there's one thing hockey players typically don't like, it's anything publicly messy. And again, there's a little bit of retribution with like him sort of gloating about, the 7 and like moving on and sort of the taunting and whatnot. Little slice of humble pie. I get it. To me, the fact that Darcy Kemper
took out Kadri too.
Yeah, he's the one who took out Kadri, and I don't feel good about that. But there was some also, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't point out some of the rough play. I mean, my God, they were thwacking at Draisaitl's ankle left, and which is why for years hockey coaches lower body injury. None of your business. It's a lower body injury.
Yep.
Because that's what would happen. Oh, he's got a bad ankle. What do you think is going to get slashed next game? And we saw it, and that sucks. Saw some rough play. I mean, I love physical, gritty, hard-hitting hockey.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't like when the line gets crossed, especially from players like Evander Kane frustrates me because he's such a good player.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't need to play that way. Like, he's a legitimate goal-scoring machine. Please don't cross-check a guy right in the numbers into a very dangerous position where he's out for the rest of the playoffs. But what do you guys think of the much more balanced series of the Rangers and Tampa? I know I'm the Rangers diehard here, but did anyone expect it to be this balanced?
No, I expected Tampa to run away with this.
I get it. I as a fan, I have my opinions, but like as a take a step back analytical hockey person, yeah, no, you know what you know. This has been exciting. It has been a duel of two of the best goaltenders that we have ever seen, in my mind.
I will agree with that.
Igor Shesterkin for Conn Smythe if they make the finals. I don't even care if they
100%.
lose. Igor Shesterkin for Conn Smythe
if they even lose. Dude is the only reason New York is in the playoffs, and he's the only reason that they're still in the playoffs.
That said, Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, like they've had a phenomenal. Andrew Kopp has been a phenomenal pickup for them. Kopp and Vetrano, the kid line of Heidel, Lafreniere, and Kako, they're getting hot at the right time. Like their offense got hot at the right time.
Yep.
And as we've seen, like that's all it takes sometimes. Look at Florida. They went cold at the wrong time. And you gotta love, Adam Fox is a Norris contender every year. K'Andre Miller has looked great. Lindgren's looked good.
Yep.
Like they've got a good defense. I don't think that they're Colorado's defense, but I think that they're a better defense. I think they're one of the better defenses, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
If their offense can stay even remotely hot and Shesterkin can be consistent, the defense is going to do its job.
Yep.
I mean, it's so weird potentially seeing the New York Rangers in the finals when, 3 years ago, they sent out that letter saying that we're rebuilding.
It's been insanity. And
then they jumped 15 picks to get Lafreniere.
They also jumped to get Kako, right? Or did they?
I think they jumped to get Capo.
Yeah, because I don't think they were naturally there. Is the signing of Panarin was a big move. I mean, that jump started them. Mm-hmm. Zibanejad and Kreider becoming a 50-something goal scorer.
Nobody saw that coming.
He's a power forward, most known for taking a run at Carey Price. No, I didn't expect that at all.
Wait, so the puck goes in the net?
I thought I go in the net. A classic misconception.
My bad, guys.
That said, I think that a lot of teams, like I know the Hawks are pointing to them as well, they were in the same position as us. We can do it. Same with the Blue, a lot of things clicked right for the Rangers. And Gerard Gallant is a brilliant coach. We're seeing some phenomenal coaching matchups right now in this series between Gallant and Cooper. That to me, that's a lot of these series have been made or broken by coaching matchups. I think Colorado and St. Louis just got out coached.
Yeah. Because on paper, St. Louis isn't bad.
No, God, no. In fact, I'd argue they were a little deeper than they were last year. You missed Sundqvist, but you got Letty, and that sort of balances things out. All I know is it's weird to see because the Rangers aren't so far removed. Well, I guess it was 2014 that they were in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, man, without Lundqvist, it's just so weird thinking of them in the playoffs without Lundqvist.
I know.
But also the nerve of them to go from Lundqvist to Shesterkin.
Yeah, I
like
know.
As a what?
And you got Kreider, who's like Jean-Jacques Francois Jacques Jean from
JJ Frankie JJ. That's my guy, the pride of Quebec.
Pride of Quebec.
We got to get. So what you're saying is we got to pick up Shoresy.
If you can't tell, I just watched all of Shoresy last night.
As I burned through it last week, and I want to burn through it again.
They can't end it like they did. I'm sorry. I'm just
I love it.
Like
I
need more.
But it's a show that captures hockey so well.
They can't just end it like that. Like, I want more. Give me another season. Give me more episodes. You can't just stop it right there.
Speaking of stopping it right there, what are we going to have? What do you guys think is our Stanley Cup final? Realistically, who are we seeing? Do you think that the Rangers are going to be able to pull it out? I mean, I know your answer, Jordan. I know you're going to go with Tampa.
If it goes deep, it's Tampa. Like,
I would argue the other way.
Ooh, okay.
They've got a lot of hockey. They've got a lot of hockey under their belts. I think that the Rangers are a little fresher. They've got a bunch of kids. They've got fresh legs, but they've got enough veterans that know the game and know how to stay not too high or too low. Jordan,
I will. How do you root against the Tampa Bay Lightning with the roster that they have? Like,
I get it. I absolutely get it.
But that being said, and I'm gonna say the same thing about New York that I said about Edmonton. If New York makes it to the Stanley Cup Finals, they're going to be riding such ridiculous momentum going in, and that's momentum Colorado doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like at every turn, people have discounted and made excuses for why the Rangers have gotten here and why they keep moving on. Is it kind of like the same excuses that people were making for the Montreal Canadiens last year? Yeah. Like people keep like, well, they're not supposed to be here. Like, well, they're not actually okay. They played a bunch of weak goalies. Yeah. I don't know. At some point they're there. And like, they're there because they deserve to be there, whether they got hot at the right time. It's not necessarily luck. It's getting lucky that it's all clicking right now. Just like it's bad luck that a team like Tampa gets swept or the Oilers got swept. I don't know. I've come this far. I can't discount the Rangers now.
I get it. It's fun. It's exciting. I love the meme that one of you sent that I've seen all over Reddit where it was like a methodical game of chess being Tampa and New York and then just the Wild West shootout of.
I mean, that's between that and the Battle of Alberta was a Wild West shootout that I've never seen.
I would have been in heaven.
100%.
If the Rangers make the Cup Finals, can you imagine how just insane it's going to be at Madison Square Garden?
Jesus.
I love it so much. An original six team, like they're going to go nuts. New York City.
But then Colorado winning, Detroit Red Wings winning the next season, I'm just saying. And then Chicago, you're getting Peter Marazzic. Maybe. Who knows?
Everyone's having fun.
Kane will go to Edmonton. They give them another offensive threat they don't need.
That's actually true. It sounds like he's really happy with Edmonton. And
No, Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane.
Oh, no. How absolutely dare you? You're a monster.
I mean,
how absolutely dare you?
It's kind of weird to see it, but like it was actually kind of interesting to see just the whole Edmonton Oilers experiment, though, this playoffs. Like, you brought in Duncan Keith, a guy who is nearing the end of his career.
Still made some phenomenal aware passes.
Yeah, and like, were there some really bad miscues on his part?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was one of them versus Colorado that literally cost them a goal, but he looked all right as a middle pair defenseman when he wasn't being expected to log almost 25 minutes a game. Definitely. Like he was in Chicago.
Definitely.
Evander Kane, a lot of people looked at, and myself included, looked at that move and said, I don't know if that's what you should be doing.
But man, he was good.
He looked godly during those playoffs.
They really should have traded for a goalie.
Oh, agreed. Oh, my God, they could have had Fleury, but they didn't want to give up that first round pick. What good is their first round pick if it's, right now, like
it's going to be in
29th
like the
or whatever
20s,
it is. Yeah. I would have much rather had Fleury if I'm
in a possible cup running team.
100%.
Then Mike, I make lots of mistakes, Smith.
And not only a lot of mistakes, but like his composure is not. His composure's never been good though. Even back when he was with the Coyotes, like he's a hothead. But I'll tell you who stood out to me for Edmonton was Zach Hyman.
Zach Hyman did look really good.
Pickup. I was hearing his name every game, seeing him on the score sheet almost every game, just throughout the whole playoffs. I think he was a phenomenal boost with a different skill set that Toronto really could have used. And Edmonton is certainly thriving with. So that's great to see him step up, that it's not all just super talented goal scorer, playmaker. Like Zach Hyman does a lot of getting to the dirty areas, and he's fitting in well with that top six.
And so we're going to be getting the final by the time we're here next week. Because what is it? We're the game 3 or game 4 right now in the Rangers versus
game 4 of the Rangers series, because the Rangers are up in the series 2-1.
Okay. So by next week, we should have the final
decided, like who's going to be in it.
Yeah, like who's going to be in the final. I mean, after that, though, what is there for us to cover until the draft? Like, there's not a ton for us to cover. Hockey's going to be slowing down.
I love it.
We can have David's sci-fi hour where it's just me speculating about, the Red Wings and the Blackhawks and the future of hockey. Are we going to get the glowing puck back? Who knows?
I hope so. I love the glowing puck.
Will we get Wayne Gretzky hockey back? Where you can escape getting sent to the penalty box by just outskating the ref.
No, I think it's going to be interesting to see who ends up going to the finals out of the Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like I said, if it's the Rangers, I honestly think they're riding momentum all the way to a cup.
Yep.
Sometimes that is worth more than anything, to be entirely honest.
Yep. We will see.
We'll see. Yeah. Unfortunately, like I said, there wasn't a lot to cover for the Blackhawks this week, so it's unfortunate, but it kind of is what it is. It was a really quiet past couple of weeks for the Hawks. No major news breaks. But that's going to be it for our show. For everybody who's still watching or listening, we appreciate you guys tuning in and watching or checking out the show. As always, feel free to give us any sort of feedback for the show, whether that be like comments, discussion ideas, critiques for the show, things that you think we can improve on. If you're on social media, feel free to give us a like, follow, share, whatever the currency is, a form on the platform you found us on. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. I mean, heck, you can even email us, stickplaypodcast@gmail.com. Like, whatever you use to get your podcast fix, we're probably on it. So feel free to give us, a follow, whatever it is. It helps the show grow and it helps us connect with you all. But like I said, that's going to be it for our show tonight. For your host, Jordan Scott, and for my co-hosts, David Barnhouse and Tim Stompanato, this has been another edition of the Stick Plated Podcast. We will catch you guys all back here next week. And in the meantime, enjoy what's left of the conference finals. Take care.